last year as well, just to get a sense of who the players are that we've been connecting with. So what we're going to do is I'm just going to give you a very brief background information on kind of pioneers in Alberta for those who aren't familiar, and I'm going to go really quickly because I think most of you are really grounded in this and you know, and then a quick update on the National Physical Literacy Alliance, and then we're going to hand it over to the girls here to promote the wiki, get into the good stuff. So I just wanted to spend a moment to really talk about, we discussed on the phone when we were planning, like, what do we call these people? There's so many people involved in physical literacy, so we don't have time to shout out to every single one, but I wanted to say these were the groups that were probably, I would say, instrumental in advancing physical literacy and getting us to where we are today. And obviously all of you and all of your organizations, if you're not on this list, you're on the list now, right? Because we're all contributing. So we know that the Play Network across Alberta, we have how many play groups now? 12? 13? What are we up to? It comes and goes. Between 11 to 13 play groups. And what I love about the play groups is just how organic they are and how they don't need any, they need support, but they don't need much support. They kind of take on a life of their own. People come of their free will. They stay, even though sometimes there's not a super solid agenda. It might just be to share and learn and network. Other times it's more structured. And so I love how unique they are and how it's really just been a forum to bring people together around physical literacy. And I'd say in Edmonton and Calgary, just because we have more people to access and we've been around a bit longer, there's some more initiatives coming out of that. So in Calgary would be like the superhero training that we're doing. And Edmonton, you have probably the Live Active and other, you're doing some mentoring work as well. So we'll have time to share maybe a little bit of that over the afternoon. Is everybody familiar with a play group in their region or part of a play group in their region? Anyone not? Okay, don't be shy. All right. Terry, do you want to talk about play? These guys are all from Edmonton, right? Yeah. Play great.
Just need to know they're very good.
Can I remind anybody at the back room just to project your voice a little bit so our friends can hear us online?
So play is an acronym for physical literacy. And the Edmonton group started with Vicky and I and our chair at that time, Michael Cook. Vicky was actually chair at that time. Sitting down and saying, how can we advance sport participation in Edmonton? And we thought if we started with kids, if the kids were active, that was the way to increase sport participation. And we literally went through our Rolodexes, our phones, and said, who do we know that has a major role in getting kids active in major youth-serving organizations, education, Boys and Girls Clubs, city, etc. And I went and met with everyone one-on-one and educated them about sport life and a little bit about physical literacy, and that's where we started. So play great, the second acronym is great, which is greater than everything. Because while we started off as Edmonton, we had people from the outline community saying, we want to be involved also. And that's, so there's a play parkland that's been formed. The Restock, Edmonton base is talking about a play group. And so it is very organic. People come, contribute, come and want to contribute, go where they want to go, and primary goals around networking, advancing leader training in the area of physical literacy, identifying and creating where necessary resources, and moving policy within our organizations as it relates to physical literacy. So in some ways, for Edmonton, we're ahead of the curve for the Live Active strategy, which has a huge component around physical literacy. And then there's wonderful things happening between the public schools and the Catholic schools with assistance from Vicky, YMCA Edmonton, Lindsay, and Brian's group. And so there's 12, 15 groups across the province now, and that's sort of where this group came from, is while we can work together locally, there's also a need to work together provincially so that we don't duplicate resources and we can go that much further.
Exactly. Perfect. So we won't spend a lot of time on all of these, but I think the playgroups just because of how broad their reach is and how they're accessible to all of us. I just want to pause for a second and see if anyone on the phone, sorry, as Aaron's rearranging his setup here. Is there anyone on the phone that wants to contribute to the play group conversation and just any information you want the group to know?
I'm thinking Ashley might have something to say.
Okay.
Ashley, what do you think?
Aaron, can you hear us?
Yeah.
I can.
Sorry, you know what, we missed a little bit of that because we're trying to get a speaker so that we can hear what's going on. So playgroups are great. I'm going to leave it at that.
Perfect.
All
Thank
right.
you.
So Ashley's been great, a great leader for us in the Calgary playgroup area, and it's, again, kind of growing all the time. The interest is there, and each Be Fit for Life Center is affiliated with a playgroup, whether they're leading it or whether they're a member of it, and so that's been a really great resource and a really great merging, I guess, of resources around that as well. So I'll leave it at that for now. I think that will come out over the afternoon. The Be Fit for Life Network, we have the 9 centers across the province of the 9, right? Nothing changed there. Everactive Schools, who is out here today. You guys pause if you need me to go into depth, if you need me to elaborate on any of these organizations. Alberta Sport Connection and Recreation Physical Activity Division. So Dean and Owen, now Aaron, Owen, the folks from the government have been instrumental in supporting this as well. The sport councils, there's Edmonton Sport Council, Grant Prairie Sport Council, Lethbridge Sport Council, all really, Calgary Sport Council, have all been very involved in advancing physical literacy. And then I think we want to maybe acknowledge the leadership of Alberta Sport Connection in supporting the roles of Vicki and myself for physical literacy and long-term athlete development. And they're not really, I know Owen will say, we don't really want to own this, we want to support it and have this be a connector across the province. So I think that's been, fantastic and a real benefit to be able to have that role, to be able to connect. And part of what I'd like for today is to get feedback from all of you as to this role continuing for me, what would that look like? What kind of support do we need to keep the momentum going in Alberta? Because there's a lot going on, so what is it that we need to kind of keep that going? And then I added at the bottom there just all of you and the health, education, recreation, and sport champions. I think we've all played a role, and then we see the great representation from education here today, from the city of Edmonton, so some new players coming to the table all the time and adding to the movement. So is there any key groups there that I've missed or that you're aware of that we're not aware of? It's pretty broad. Okay. So I just want to spend a couple of minutes on the National Physical Literacy Alliance to give you the context. So there's over 40 national and provincial organizations on the National Alliance. It seeks to advance, basically, without him making you read the whole slide, advance physical literacy across the country. What I wanted to share with you, so there's a Canadian physical activity framework being developed. And so although the National Physical Literacy Alliances in various iterations exist for about 2 years now, one of the more recent opportunities they identified was to be able to contribute to that National Physical Activity Framework. So rather than creating a separate physical literacy framework, we want to advise and inform that national framework. And so that's been some of the work that's been most recently done, is looking at how can we impact physical activity messaging to integrate the concept and the benefit of physical literacy as that gateway to physical activity. And then we have 6 activation areas, which are going to be very similar to the ones you see in Alberta, which is why I wanted to show you this. So there's 6: the awareness, evaluation and research, education and training, engagement and programming, policy and strategy, and resources and tools. And so although we're not here in Alberta necessarily trying to replicate what's happening at the national level, I want you to see what is happening because it may inform us, it may just help to guide us a little bit and just to be aware of that. I have lots more information on this if anyone's interested. Is anyone going to the International Physical Literacy Conference next week in Toronto? So on Wednesday evening, there will be a National Physical Literacy meeting, and I think it's open. Do you need an invitation to it?
I don't think so.
Okay.
Just an email for any delegates that were registered to just come.
Yeah, that's what I mean. So
Yeah,
it's open, yeah. So if you're interested in attending that, it's always interesting to kind of see the national players as well in a different perspective. And then, again, we don't need to read through all of this, but I just wanted to show you the structure that they're looking at. So there's a National Leadership Council, so 6 chairs, so people just representing each of the different activation areas, and then a committee for each of those areas. National, yeah, and then the larger group, right? So a kind of executive group, for lack of a better word, the committees underneath them, and then the larger audience, right? And it's sort of probably like our play groups where we have in Calgary, I'm pointing at in Calgary, we call ourselves a leadership group. So for Play Calgary, there's 3 or 4 or 5 of us at any given time that are most, I guess, interested and have the capacity to help organize the group. So that would be like the Leadership Council, and then below that, people can participate to the level that interests them. So if they really have resources and passionate about education, we can support that initiative, which is, I guess, to Gary's points earlier around the I guess, organic nature and the way that we can help really advance this, but it's at the level of people's passion, energy, and capacity and time and expertise, right? So it can be a little bit customized. So that is it around the National Physical Literacy Alliance. Owen, do you want to add anything? You were at the last couple of meetings. Share more about that. Yeah, so right now they're looking at who is going to be members of those subcommittees in each of the areas. So I put myself on the engagement subcommittee to try to kind of stay connected with that. And so we can keep continuing to inform you around that. And one of the other pieces, I guess, that may be of interest is Participation as one of the partners in the communication area have created a series of messages that are sort of common messaging and key messages around physical literacy that are meant to be kind of taking that role of creating consistent language and consistent messaging, and a more for practitioners to use when they're speaking to parents or when they're speaking to different audiences. And those are going to be launched next week at the international conference as well, and then they should be available online. So when we do a debrief of the conference, that should be coming out as well. Okay? All right, so I am going to leave it at that unless there's any other questions.